Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council, Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2026, held here in the Manjimup Shire chambers, commencing at 5:30. Kaya nala karak nungamot kan karak ninja buja. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land. Section 2, announcements by the President. Last night, the Tiny Tourism Town Awards were held in Carnarvon. I'm very, very proud to say that the Manjimup Shire did incredibly well at the awards, with Walpole coming in third, Councillor Wilcox. Pemberton came in second. And of course, we had our local tourism legend in Gary Muir came away with the big gong, which makes him an official legend, not just one by his own rhetoric. Attendance, apologies. We have Councillor Heidi Tempera is an apology for this meeting. Are there any others? No, and we have no approved leave of absence. Section 4 is declarations of interest. Mr CEO.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one declaration of impartiality from Councillor Jade Darren in relation to agenda item 9.9.1. Which has to do with the proposed contribution to access for the Manjimup recreation grounds, and the nature of the interest is that Councillor Darren's children are students of Kiernan College, and I also have a proximity interest from Madam President in relation to agenda item 9.13.4, which has to do with the proposed closure of portion of Kimber Road. And the nature of the interest is that Madam President is a party to the adjoining property.
Thank you. Section 5, the bit we're all here to anticipating is public question time. 5.1, response to public questions taken on notice. There are nil. 5.2, public question time. Under meeting procedure determined by the Shire of Manjimup Standing Orders Local Law 2013, this is the only opportunity for members of the public to ask up to a maximum of 2 questions of Council. There is no further opportunity to question the Shire of Manjimup during the meeting. Questions can be asked on any Shire matter, not just on issues included in the meeting agenda, and each person should have up to 3 minutes to ask their questions. Persons asking questions are entitled to a response unless the question is declared out of order by the presiding member. If a matter requires further investigation, that response may be in writing. Any person asking questions of Council must state their correct name and locality, as this will form part of the public record of this meeting. Just like to let everyone know that this meeting is live streamed and it is recorded. It'll be available on the YouTube channel and it is going out to the wider population. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa Gallen. I'm Principal of Kiernan College and I live in Manjimup. Am I good just to ask?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So in my letter to, I'm about to ask questions about agenda item 9.9.1 regarding Kiernan College. In my letter to Mr. Rose dated May the 5th this year, I outlined the various ways Kiernan College uses the Manjimup recreation grounds. When all of these instances are added together, from 20-minute lunchtime sessions for small groups of students to kick footballs, 15-minute morning runs for our primary student running club, to some 45-minute PE lessons, plus a few days for athletics carnivals. The total amounts to a maximum of approximately 250 hours per year. That figure doesn't account for the occasions we don't use the grounds due to weather or oval condition, when our own courts or oval are sufficient, or when the Shire's oval is unavailable. If we were a non-profit community group being charged the low impact hourly rate of $8.80, those 250 hours would amount to $2,200. It seems exorbitant and unjustifiable to be suggesting that $10,000 is a fair amount, given that equates to $40 per hour. This is a higher rate than a group using heavy vehicles and equipment would pay, and approaching the amount a circus would be charged for ground hire. It's also a higher rate than we pay for use of the indoor pavilion. Given that the stated rationale for introducing a fee for Kiernan College is fairness and justice, this proposal appears neither fair nor just. My first question is, what considerations and calculations were used to arrive at the figure of $10,000? And what was the consultation process among Shire employees to critically assess whether this amount was fair and reasonable? And my second question is, If this proposal is passed and Kiernan does not enter into a memorandum of understanding that includes a Kiernan-specific fee, does that effectively ban us from ever being able to book and use the recreation grounds again?
Thank you.
I just catch the fourth question.
Sorry?
The fourth question,
Sorry.
does it ban them from ever using the oval?
That was my second question.
Madam President, what I might do is ask if I can take the questions on notice so I can actually research some of the elements there, and I can provide some written correspondence back to Kiernan through the principal.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr.
Thank
Rose.
you. Are there any other questions? Are you sure? Okay, thank you. 6.1, petitions, there are nil. 6.2, on a lighter note, we have a presentation. Oh, and you're just in time. We are very fortunate tonight to honour a couple of people who have been long-standing business people within our community. These people have run a business for over 50 years, put up with each other for longer. And we are very, very fortunate tonight to honour Christine and Michael Fontanini for all that they have done for our community, whether it be supplying fencing that goes around our magnificent Christmas tree, to anything very short term that I've managed to ring them through the Chamber of Commerce to supply tables and chairs and anything else. Christine and Michael, as a community, we are so very, very thankful for everything that you do for us. And it is businesses and people like you that truly make Manjimup such a fantastic place to live. So I would like everyone to join us, the council, in thanking Christine and Michael. Now you have to stand up. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. You can stay if you want to listen to the rest. Okay. Deputation. 6.3 deputation. We might start off with Greg and Todd, if you would like to start. Thank you. 10 minutes. At 9.5 minutes, you'll hear.
I will not be here for 10 minutes. Shire President, councillors, management team, Shire Manjimup, public in the gallery. My name is Greg Pearce. I'm the owner of the piece of land just south of the shopping centre. I'm also the developer of the shopping centre. Whether you like that or not, I hope it's been good for the town. Mr. Todd Wood is a Senior Development Executive from McDonald's. We're here to ask you to consider our case to develop McDonald's family restaurant on the piece of land. I'm not going to talk much about it. The executive has done a thorough job in the presentation to you. It covers everything. There's been quite a bit of discussion and consultation, and for that we're very grateful. It's been a very good experience. As a developer, I deal a lot with local government. Not everything is as good as the experience we've had with your team, so thank you very much. And we just hope that you can support the project. It'll be good for the town. We're ready to go. The McDonald's board has approved the project, so we don't need to go somewhere else and get another approval. It's shovel ready, as they say, and it would be operating 2027 would be the time. You want to say anything, Todd? No. That's fine. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions? Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pearce. Okay, we will move on to, is Mark Rawlings here? Oh, Mark, did you want to present?
Madam President, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark. I'm a father of 2 kids at Kiernan, and I want to speak to agenda item 9.9.1. I loved my time at school, like truly I loved it. Perhaps a little bizarrely, some of my most cherished memories involve a tunnel. It was a tunnel that connected my school to the sports grounds. Even now, I can still feel the cheers echoing from the walls and the cascades of high five as we ran through the tunnel. Crossing that tunnel, whether in victory or defeat, was legendary. Today, as a father, I realised that this culture of companionship and physical activity was not an accident or a one-off. It was fostered. It had been built deliberately over generations. In fact, that very tunnel had been dug by hand. It had been carved through the earth to give us an escape from the concrete jungle of our classrooms and to give safe passage to the grass on the other side of a busy road. That open space, that grass on the other side of the tunnel, is council-owned public parkland. My own experience is playing out here in Manjimup. There will be kids here having the same experience I did. But after reading tonight's report, I realised that myself and Kiernan alumni were fortunate to have a council who recognised that when you remove the barriers between school gates and public land, you create an environment for success. The time spent on that public grass is life-altering. It is instrumental in how year after year my school produces Rhodes Scholars, professional athletes, poets and captains of industry. Kiernan is no different. Kiernan and this community have built something truly, truly special. For generations, it has cultivated young people of intellect, integrity and profound substance. People who serve their community and family with humility, courage and purpose. Kiernan has delivered exceptional outcomes for the youth of this community. Previous councils have understood the valuable contribution the school offers the community. They believed that public land is not a liability to be fenced off. This oval is a canvas for building character. Those councillors didn't look out and think, how much money can we get from these kids? 10,000? 3,000? They realised that maximising public land foster the health of our young, increases the return on investment that Kiernan gives to the community. Tonight, this council is being asked to turn its back on a proven recipe for success. You are being asked to turn away from a proven path that leads to exceptional outcomes for local students and community. You are considering a fee on child's play. Tonight, the officer's report you are being asked to rely on contains significant errors, is lacking in research, and has statements that undermine your ability to defend your decision. Let's set aside the basic errors. Instead, I will tonight expose the logic flaws and disassemble the 4 arguments the report asks you to rely on. The first and most heartless flaw is this campus extension concept. The report claims that because the college has extended its buildings, it is, quote, inappropriately treating the public oval as a private extension of its campus. This argument fails to give consideration to the core purpose of the school. The report asks you to actively penalise the school for prioritising high-quality learning environments, which are the classrooms and the facilities needed to deliver a modern education. To frame kids kicking the footy at lunch as an inappropriate extension is a very, very heartless interpretation of the oval's use. I would argue that students using the oval is a textbook example of civic optimisation. When a public asset, which would otherwise be sitting empty, is used by young people, it is not, as the report claims, a burden. It is a triumph of using a shared asset to serve a higher public good. The second and most legally problematic flaw is the report's weaponisation of the rate exemption. The report states, quote, the college itself is exempt from paying local government rates and therefore does not directly contribute toward the maintenance and renewal of local government infrastructure. This statement not only undermines your ability to defend your intention, it demonstrates a disregard for the law and a misunderstanding of the governance framework. Basing your decision on the fact the school does not contribute via rates makes your intentions improper. The school's rate exemption is a deliberate explicit statutory protection. The state enacted this law specifically to ensure that educational institutions can direct every single dollar into schooling children, rather into Shire fees. Attempting to bypass state legislation through an annual contribution is an illegal backdoor tax on education. The third flaw, and easily the most disingenuous, is the false equivalence of sector equity. The report claims it is unfair to other schools because they spend money maintaining their own ovals. Well, this completely ignores two important points. One, that Kiernan has grounds and spends money maintaining them. The second point the paper ignores is just how small and underfunded our school is. We can't afford colour printing, and yet here is this report making claims of fairness. If it is equity you seek, charging the group who is least able to afford it is not the path. True equity would mean recognising unequal financial worlds. The funding of small independent schools is not the same as government schools. The verifiable reality is that compared to other schools, Kiernan has significantly less money to spend on fixed costs and significantly less access to funding. I'm on committee, I've seen the numbers. The school has less than nothing. I also note that in Agenda 9.2.2, you're being asked to give some land to the Department of Education. So I just kind of wonder where the equity argument would fall on Kiernan being gifted a nice piece of land. The last flaw I will address tonight is the most out of touch, and that's the myth of ratepayer burden. The report claims that the ratepayer base is unfairly carrying the full maintenance cost of the Oval. Let's be perfectly clear. The parents of Kiernan students are local ratepayers. They pay the rates with the explicit expectation that their children have the right to use public parks. Importantly, the report fails to demonstrate that students cause any additional wear or tear. Student use of the Oval does not add to maintenance costs. Let me say that again. Student use of the Oval does not add to maintenance costs. As the report states quite clearly, this is, quote, additional source of revenue. This additional fee is just double dipping into the pockets of families. The proposed fee structure is very inconsistent with an equitable distribution of use. The fee, as a percentage of maintenance cost, does not reconcile with the insignificant impact of student use. Now, maybe you couldn't care less about youth development. I guarantee you don't care about me or others benefiting from the use of public land. Maybe you're okay with errors in a report. If that's you, if you're here for the money, I want you to understand one clear point. The school cannot afford to pay anything. Voting to support this new fee will result in none of the achievements it mistakenly seeks. You will achieve nothing. You will leave here tonight having undone a generation of proven excellence. To conclude, this fee fails the equity test. It is literally taking from the group who can least afford it. The fee is completely disconnected from the maintenance costs. So when the kids are forced to stop using the Oval, there will be no cost savings. It's a targeted additional fee aimed specifically at children and education. I do not want you to go down a tunnel that follows a poorly researched and misleading report. Instead, as I did, I want you to hear the cheers of your peers, building you up into a better version of yourself. You have the power tonight to continue the Shire's good work, which has been the generational established path of excellence. You have the power not to treat kids as an additional revenue stream. On behalf of my children and the parents of Kiernan, I ask you to vote against the measure and to commit fully to free access to public parks for students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Dr. Gallen, did you want to address?
So again, I am speaking to the same agenda item. So as the principal of Kiernan College and as the steward of our school's very limited resources, It's my responsibility to ensure that every dollar we spend directly benefits our students' wellbeing and education. I fully appreciate that the Shire faces similar obligations to make prudent financial decisions for the benefit of its residents. However, the proposal before you is, in my view, inconsistent with our shared goal of improving the day-to-day lives of the families who live, work and pay rates within this community. Quite simply, as Mr Rowlings has already noted, the college cannot fund a $10,000 annual contribution, even with the stage increases. We are currently operating in a deficit budget. We have less than zero, just as Mr Rawlings noted. And even if funds were available, there is no reasonable justification for a fee of this magnitude. It would be irresponsible of me, as principal, to commit to such an expense given our limited and low impact use of the grounds. As outlined in my earlier question, the proposed fee is more than 4 times higher than the equivalent booking fee charged to other community not-for-profit groups undertaking similarly low impact activities. There is a common misconception that Catholic schools are well resourced because we charge school fees. While this may be true of some large metropolitan colleges, it is not the reality for small regional schools like ours. Fees from parents make up only a very small portion of our income. Catholic education's funding model is fundamentally different to government schools, and it's important that decisions made by council are not under the assumption that we have access to the same resources as they do, plus additional funds from fees. It's just not the case. It's been pointed out that other schools maintain their own ovals and therefore Kiernan should contribute to the Shire's costs. This is an incredibly flawed argument. I note that Kiernan also maintains its own oval at a cost of approximately $12,000 this year so far. We would welcome a larger on-site oval, but unlike government schools, we are not gifted land by the state. Until Manjimup Primary School was lucky enough to be moved at state government expense to their larger site, they also used the oval for similar reasons to Kiernan. When our school was established 101 years ago, it would not have been anticipated that our enrolments would grow to the point where additional land would be needed. We have expanded facilities over time in response to community demand, but we do not have the benefit of the Department of Education funding or land allocation. This year, the state government has allocated $2 billion to state school grants for the purpose of building or expanding school facilities. Catholic schools get absolutely none of this money. Government schools might have large ovals they need to maintain, but they did not need to take out loans to purchase them in the first place, nor to finance any of their other buildings and facilities. They were all gifted. It is unfair to financially penalise us using justification based on an unequal comparison for the lack of funding that is otherwise enjoyed by our government school counterparts. A further rationalisation for the introduction of a fee within the proposal is that, and I quote, "The college is exempt from paying rates and therefore does not directly contribute toward the maintenance and renewal of local government infrastructure. Under our exemption as a religious educational institution under state legislation, as justification to introduce fees could at the very least be considered immoral or unethical. It seems to suggest that the introduction of a fee is being used to circumvent legislation and is concerning and potentially risky approach to be taking." Unlike other schools in Manjimup, we're a pre-kindy to Year 12 school. Students aged 6 to 18 share limited recreational space. Access to the oval allows older students to engage in activities such as football without compromising the safety of the younger children. While we could technically operate without access to the recreation grounds, doing so would significantly restrict students' physical activity options and negatively impact their health and wellbeing. If the proposal passes in its current form, this is the position we would be forced into. Our use of the oval does not increase the Shire's maintenance costs. Whether we use it or not, the costs remain the same. Outside of carnival days, we do not require exclusive access, nor do we occupy large areas, and our use is during school hours when demand is low. We adjust our plans around other users, and community members continue to walk dogs, exercise and enjoy the space along with our students. To my knowledge, there have been no complaints regarding our students' behaviour or use of the grounds. I am reluctant to draw comparisons with other users of the recreation grounds, as we value their contribution to the community and have no issue with their presence. However, the comparison is unavoidable. The predominant user of the Oval is a football club, so much so that the grounds are colloquially named after them. The Shire does not charge them for the use of the Oval, aside from lighting fees, despite the club generating significant income through memberships and relying entirely on the Oval for its operations. As the proposal notes, the Shire must consider, this is quotes, the Shire must consider whether it is reasonable for the wider ratepayer base to continue carrying the full cost of maintaining infrastructure relied upon by one organisation. I would respectfully suggest that the football club is far more reliant on the Oval than Kiernan College. If the Oval didn't exist, the club couldn't function. If the Oval didn't exist, Kiernan College would continue to successfully operate. The Shire's own figures show annual maintenance costs of approximately $60,000 in the last 2 years. The proposal asks the college to contribute 1/6 of these costs. This is wildly disproportionate given our minimal use and negligible impact. Other users cause significant wear and damage requiring remediation, yet pay no fees. Last year, the Oval was effectively unusable for a month following the football season due to damage caused by other users. Furthermore, the Shire actually pays the football club $8,000 per year under the Memorandum of Understanding referenced in the maintenance table in the agenda. To be clear, I am not suggesting that the Shire impose new fees on the football club. They provide an important service to the community. My point is that it is inequitable to introduce substantial fees for the college while other higher impact users contribute nothing. I also note the irony that at this same meeting, councillors are being asked to consider gifting Shire land to the Department of Education, while simultaneously proposing a substantial annual fee for a non-government school, effectively penalising us for having a small land footprint and no capacity to expand. In summary, I respectfully ask councillors to vote against this proposal. The suggested fee is exorbitant and unjustified. If passed, it sets a precedent for other groups to be targeted for unreasonable contributions in the future without wider consultation. I'm very concerned that the introduction of a fee specific to the college, whether it is $100 or $10,000, will result in it being increased significantly over time without due consultation or justification. This whole process has lacked genuine consultation, so my fears in this regard are not baseless. I ask that an alternative proposal be made by a member of council to the effect that all schools continue to enjoy the Shire recreational grounds for ad hoc and casual use. However, where exclusive or extensive use of the space is required, such as carnivals or large events, that all schools, not just Kiernan, would be charged as per the community non-profit low impact published hourly rate. That would create equity and reflect the important role of our Shire resources in sustaining the health and wellbeing of our children. If no councillor is willing to make such a proposal, I request that this matter be put aside until a future council meeting. The magnitude of the potential fee was not revealed or even hinted at in my previous conversations and correspondence with Mr Rose and Ms Ibsen Cutts, despite requesting this information several times. Now that the significant potential cost is known, the legal and infrastructure representatives from Catholic Education WA are keen to be involved. I feel this is a fair request given the total absence of genuine consultation or transparency that has taken place to date. The college is committed to working collaboratively with the Shire to develop a fair and reasonable Memorandum of Understanding that reflects our minimal use, our negligible impact, and that aligns with the considerations extended to other users of this shared community asset. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions on that one? Thank you. Mr CEO, did you want to read the deputation from Tanya Spangrio?
Thank you, Madam President. Was there a deputation from Mr Maxwell?
Yes, but that's the next lot.
Ah, okay.
Sorry.
Yep. Thank you.
We've got a couple to go.
Okay, so I have a deputation here that's been asked to be read out from Tanya Spangero. in relation to agenda item 9.5.1, which has to do with a proposed change of use for a dwelling to short-term rental accommodation at Park Avenue in Walpole. And I will read it verbatim. Dear Sir and members of Council, Development Proposal DA 2616 Park Avenue Walpole. I would like to introduce myself as the owner of 1 Park Avenue Walpole. My name is Tanya Spangero. I'm a business owner and live in Perth with my 2 children. I'm not able to attend the meeting in person due to commitments in Perth, and I apologise that I will not be attending the formal council meeting, so I put herewith my response to the objections received. Firstly, I would like to mention that I have no objection to long-term rentals for people seeking to live and work in Walpole. In fact, it was always my intention to rent out the house to a local person, family, local worker who have jobs in Walpole. That was always my intention. I personally advertised the property through a professional real estate platform. There were very limited inquiries and no one showed interest after they were required to supply references. I eventually gave up and handed the listing to a local agent, Burton Realty. The property was on the market for quite some time, and despite Burton's efforts, no one signed a lease agreement. With response to the person claiming that the rear block is rented is simply not correct. There is no caravan on my property. Picture does not show a caravan on my property! Exclamation mark. The rear block and shed is for my own personal use. Furthermore, I feel I have the right to use my property for my own enjoyment, personal use and privacy without some local resident stalking my property. As my property could not be rented, the other option for me was to try the short-term rental accommodation rather than let my house sit dormant. I hope Council will consider my short-term rental development application so that I can confidently make an income and at the same time bring visitors to the area. If my application is approved, it will give me the flexibility to rent the property for either short-term holiday accommodation or, if there is a genuine demand for permanent long-term rental, then I would have that option also. I would also like to mention, and from my own experience, there is no reduced critical housing supply. My property would not be rented and still remains vacant to this day. In my opinion, there simply isn't enough variety of work to encourage people to live in the area. In my opinion, work is restricted to the local gardeners, cleaners, tradesmen, teachers, aged care workers, local shop employees, farmers, etc., and majority of these people live in their own privately owned properties. Walpole heavily relies on tourists and visitors to boost the Walpole economy because they are the people who spend money in the area. In my opinion, reduction of short-term holiday homes will weaken community stability because there is no variety of, or lack of, short-term accommodation. There will be less visitors to the area. As a result, the locals will miss out on the extra income they could earn from their short-term rental accommodation businesses. Just to point out, hotels and motels are not always ideal for visitors who wish to bring their boats and pets, including emergency workers, such as fire brigades with their big trucks, etc. My vacant block that is fenced off could be used for emergency fire brigade trucks, as I would be willing to have this space available for emergency workers with fire trucks, etc. I believe limiting short-term rentals will stop developers' confidence to develop/improve/renovate existing houses in Walpole because there will be no conflict with long-term planning objectives due to the resistance by some of the local residents. The developers/owners of short-term rental homes fix up these rundown homes, which generates work for the locals and improves the aesthetics of the area. On another note, it has just recently been brought to my attention that Burton Realty may not continue the management of the property, so this is subject to change. The Community Resource Centre may take over the management of the short-term rental, and the relevant documents will be amended or updated and lodged with the Council and the STRA, that's short-term rental agreement register. In conclusion, I believe my short-term rental, if approved, will be an asset to the Walpole town for these reasons I mentioned. The property will be well maintained and I will continue to make further improvements, which is good for the local businesses and good for the aesthetics of the area. The short-term rental property will encourage visitors with boats, pets and children. The visitors will spend money in the area and boost the Walpole economy, and after all, Walpole is a tourist destination. It would be better to have tourists or visitors stay short-term rather than have the place left vacant. I hope you will consider my application for the development proposal put forward for the reasons mentioned above. Thank you for taking the time to read my letter. Kind regards, Tanya Spangero, 25th of May 2026.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Mr. Maxwell? Has he gone? Oh, yep. Did you want to take the opportunity?
Yeah, I will, Fidel. Thank you.
Madam President, councillors, thanks for the opportunity. I'm here in regards to the rezoning of the housing to temporary, not the temporary for the worker accommodation, the palm accommodation. I'm sorry, I wasn't that well prepared as well as what I'd been with our recent meeting, but I just wanted to reiterate what I did say in my presentation. I'm assuming that the councillors have read the fors and against for this actual policy. And the reason I'm here is because I have been personally affected. Over the last 15 years, I can see that houses in Manjimup have been, say, given over to temporary workers, seasonal workers. It's affected my business. In regard to my employees, I've lost 4 employees in the last year due to them not being able to find accommodation. And although I don't have anything to add to what I've already put forward in the email, these 4 particular people and as employees, it's actually affected 12 people, their families as well, and they've all left town. They've been some of my best employees that I've had. I am an employer, sorry I should have said that. I'm a tree planting contractor. I do employ seasonal workers. I've had backpackers. I sort of know the situation with the accommodation. It's hard to find for workers. I can see the point with the investors buying houses and wanting to get extra rent from extra renters, but I don't feel that increasing numbers per household is the way to go. I think that's the opposite to what we're trying to encourage here. I think that we need to go towards some sort of purpose-built accommodation for the workers that are coming to town and that we've had coming to town and that we're expected in the future. In particular, the palm workers, because as we know, they stay for 10 months rather than your usual 88 days, 90 days for your backpackers. And I think they do deserve actual good accommodation. There's not many places, there's no places that I know that our brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, fathers, mothers go to work as remote as these people, as far away from home, and have to be sharing rooms. I think we should be looking at, not so much as a council or trying to encourage investors, the people that are actually using these workers, the farmers or the contractors, to build something along the lines of a mining camp and give these guys, if you look at the example there, people who work in mining get their own service room, they get fed, they get transported to and from, they get 2 to 3 times the average or the minimum wage, and that's all free. We're expecting these, the palm workers, they're essential critical workers. I'm not doubting that we don't need them, but I feel that allowing our houses, our residents to be taken up, to be taken up by the workers is obviously forcing our residents out of the residences, and we should be able to do better than that. I think that the users, the employers should be building their own facility for their workers, as a mining company would do. And although I've got no interest either way, except for to say that there are affected people that are not somebody, I've never done this before, address council, as you probably can tell, and I'm sure these weren't the sort of people that would address them, the renters that I know that have worked for me. They're not going to come here and object to it to say, well, I've lost my house because it's been bought out and, investors are renting it to short seasonal workers. So, yeah, I thought I'd better come here and at least say something. I think I've got my point across, and I'm much better at writing it down than saying it. So thanks for your time. See you around.
Thanks very much, Mr. Maxwell. We've got one more, Mr. Kilrain.
Just first of all, I'd just like to thank the council for an opportunity to speak. So many of you will know me. There's just a few things that I'd like to point out. A horticultural award, which is what these seasonal workers are working under, is a significantly different award rate to what mining are paying and are able to supply. We are one of the biggest employers in West Australia of seasonal workers, and we very much are proud of the way we look after our workers and how they're treated. So I'll get straight into it. So I'll just do it by dot point because I'm not all that big on public speaking either. So I'm John Kilrain. I'm a local resident owning a rural farm here in Manjimup. I've lived here all of my life, born in the local hospital. I'm the state manager for Owen Pacific Workforce, a labour hire company specialising in fulfilling labour shortages. I'm currently the president of a local football club, and I've previously taken on challenges including seeing common sense prevail with a very controversial Southern Forest irrigation scheme. So who is Owen Pacific Workforce? Owen Pacific Workforce is an improved employer operating under the PALM scheme. The PALM scheme is an agreement between governments that allows workers from Pacific Island nations to come to Australia to fill gaps in labour shortages. So just on that, all the jobs are advertised. If a local wanted the job, then those jobs are given locally first. So it doesn't affect local employment. We have staff in most states of Australia assisting in the harvest of a range of fruits, including strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and vegetables, including lettuce, onions, and avocado. Why am I here? I've come tonight to speak briefly as the agenda items to be discussed will directly impact our operations and the economic benefit we can bring to the region. The items are 9.52, 9.53 and 9.55. So those three, they're one with a policy and two with some accommodations that will hold more people. We're very mindful of the impact on the local housing, and we're committed to working with the local authorities to come to a solution. In particular, 9.55 has many complexities. I believe that many of the interested parties who have raised concerns have done so to a lack of understanding. The officer's recommendation will allow the opportunity to investigate further, and we support that. Our real concern is, should the existing lodging houses not be renewed longer term, this would create significant problems for us. We would then look to occupy residential houses, potentially limiting to 6, until a common sense solution can be found that will be supported by all parts of the community. Over the next few minutes, I'll provide some dot points to give a true reflection of the scheme, its benefit and its importance to our local economy. I will highlight how we determine suitable accommodation, what steps are required before it is able to be occupied by our workers. I will also touch on the challenges we face as a community to ensure we integrate these workers into our community the best way possible. I will also talk on what we have already done over the last 2 years to manage this process, with consideration of all stakeholders in the community. With our seasonal workers being integrated into the local community, I note that Pemberton was recognised yesterday in the State Tourism Awards, which was touched on earlier, received a silver medal for the second consecutive year, which is a fantastic achievement, showing that both horticulture, seasonal workers and tourism can work together if managed correctly. We've worked hard to utilise existing accommodations where possible, but recognise the need to significantly increase locations so that we can house these workers comfortably. It should be noted that these workers are here for 9 months and go home for 3 and then return, so this is actually their home. We have looked to find suitable sites that can house workers with minimal impact to the local population. For example, Warren Lodge, Carry Home, both have had significant investment already. In addition to meeting local government rules and regulations, we also adhere to DUA standards and that are quite strict on density, cooking facilities, toilets, showers, lockable doors, cleaning rosters, etc. Rents are paid per person, but the rent includes all utilities, cleaning products, yard maintenance, and all come 100% fully furnished. There is some talk in the community that the workers are paying exorbitant rent prices. This is simply a lack of understanding of those commenting. At some points of the season, the owner may receive little or no rent, so this needs to be factored in the overall price of 12 months. An improved employer like OPW is audited by DUA to ensure we have not profited from rent or transport arrangements. The Southern Forest region has been identified as a horticultural growth area. Promotions carried out by the Southern Forest Food Council and private companies have seen this region develop quickly and has now expanded into a diverse range of horticultural crops. This has created the need to bring an overseas workforce that can assist in the growing and harvesting of this diverse range of produce. Our company alone will have 270 seasonal workers in the Shire involved in harvest this season. Our preference is to maximise the benefit to our local community by giving local investors the confidence to spend within our Shire boundaries. So we do have outside investors. We always offer to build a wall to keep the money in the Shire where our workforce are. So in that regard, there's been significant investment already and the opportunity for a lot more is to come. All our accommodations, including those on the agenda, on top of what the local government requests of the owner, we have our own management team in place at all accommodations. This includes on the larger sites a crew manager who is responsible for the site and the workers. Each accommodation has its own management system in place, which is simply a WhatsApp group that senior OPW staff are included in with a site supervisor, a handful of our longer term employees. So for an example, if we receive the noise complaint, we have immediate contact with them and can quickly locate who is responsible. I must say this has been a very rare requirement as most are very well behaved and just want to earn money for their families at home. So any concerns can be dealt with very efficiently and effectively. Bad behaviour is managed by a warning system and repeat offenders can be sent straight home if deemed appropriate. We're in regular contact with local authorities and have a good working relationship with them. We identified that our numbers would positively impact on local retail, but it also created challenges. For example, if we have 270 workers line up at the local Westpac Bank at the same time on a Friday afternoon, we're going to have some staffing issues. We've worked with our clients to ensure these things are well managed and recently have introduced staggered roster days off so that it still gives the local shops the income, but we've managed to have the visitation more dispersed. The last 12 months we have moved workers into other locations apart from just Pemberton. This includes Manjimup and have used existing approved facilities where we're able, as well as creating new opportunities for some to move into houses. The feedback from the immediate neighbours of these houses has been encouraging, which is a great result for our community. Thank you for the opportunity to briefly talk on our operations within the Southern Forest region. We want to acknowledge the support that we've had from the local community and government departments. We do understand the pressure on local housing and are committed to working with all parties to ensure we maintain quality accommodation for our workers, opportunity for investment by locals, and acceptance within our local community. So far, I believe we have achieved this, and if we all continue to have good communication, I see no reason why this should change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilby. Any questions, councillors? Fabulous, thank you. Okay, 6.4 delegate reports, there are nil. 6.5 conference reports. I'd just like to quickly quickly touch on the Local Government Emergency Management Forum 2026 that Councillor Wilcox, the Director of Community Services, Gail Ibsen Cutts, and I attended yesterday at Murdoch University. It really highlighted the importance of the resilience within our communities and the relationship that our departments have with our community. I'd also like to commend the director on her fantastic presentation as she was a speaker on the day. She certainly painted both the councillor and myself in a very nice light, along with our entire region. So thank you, Director, and congratulations for being asked to present at such a prestigious event. Item 7, confirmation of the previous minutes. Councillor Burns.
So I move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the council held on the 29th of April 2026 be confirmed as a true and accurate record.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wilcox. Can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay, motions of which previous notice has been given. There is nil. Section 9, officers' reports. For the interest of the gallery, I'll explain how we're about to consider the agenda items for this meeting. All councillors have had the agenda for 1 week, giving us time to thoroughly review each item. This meeting is the only time that councillors are able to formally debate agenda items. I'll read out each item listed in the agenda, and any councillor will be able to identify an agenda item that they wish to debate. These items will be listed on the board. All items not identified by councillors to be debated will be moved in accordance with the officer's recommendation in one motion and listed in the agenda and moved en bloc for voting purposes. If your item is not listed on the board and is moved en bloc, it will be passed as per the officer's recommendation. Following this council will consider the remaining items in agenda order. Executive Services, Office of the CEO, 9.1.1, Warren Blackwood Alliance of Council Strategic Priority Setting. Corporate and Governance, 9.2.1, Annual Review of Register of Delegations, Authorisations, Appointments is absolute and taken out. 9.2.2, Proposed Relinquishment of Portion of Reserve 33169, Lot 3000, Rutherford Street, Manjimup. 932, Proposed Playground at Playgroup at Ficofolia. God, how did I get that wrong? Community Garden, Walpole. 9.2.4, Proposed Deed of Variation to Tripartite Agreement for the Use and Occupation of the Corridor, Land and Railway Infrastructure is absolute and taken out. Finance and Administration, 9.3.1, Shire Financial Payments for March 2026. 9.3.2, Monthly Statement of Financial Activity, March 2026. 933, Proposed Budget Review Adjustments, 31st of March 2026 is absolute and taken out. Statutory Planning. 9.5.1, Proposed Use of a Dwelling Short-Term Rental Accommodation at Lot 117 in brackets 1, Park Avenue, Walpole. 9.5.2, retrospective application of works to increase the number of lodges at Warren Lodge, Lot 105, in brackets 7 to 11, Brockman Street, Pemberton. 9.5.3, proposed increase in number of lodges at Carry Home Lodge, Lot 32, in brackets 55, Ellis Street, Pemberton, is taken out. 9.5.4, delegated planning decisions, April 2026. 9.5.5, consideration of public submissions for draft local planning policy 6.1.26, residential buildings policy, is out. Thank you. 9.5.6, Lot 824, Mottram Street, Manjimup, request for access arrangements at McDonald's restaurant is taken out. Community and Recreation Services, 9.9.1, proposed contribution to access Manjimup Recreation Grounds, Kiernan College, is taken out. Tech Services Works, 9.13.1, strategic review of the Shire of Manjimup plant replacement program. 9.13.2, proposed revocation of management order for Reserve 4510, Lot 12817, Balbarrup Road, Dingup, is taken out. 9.13.3, proposed closure and amalgamation of unconstructed road isolated parcel in the vicinity of Perrott Road, Balbarrup, is taken out. 9.13.4, proposed closure of unconstructed road reserve portion of Kimber Road, Palgarup. Results of public consultation has an interest and is taken out. And advisory committees, 9.16.1, amended process, appointment of the independent members on an audit and risk management advisory committee. Fabulous. Would someone like to adopt those, please? Councillor Batin.
The council adopt the recommendations. Discipline.
It's gone.
Contained in the council offices and the committee reports within section 9 of the agenda, with the exception of those on the board.
Fabulous. Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan, can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. Alrighty. Let's begin. 9.2.1, annual review of register of delegations, authorisations and appointments.
As per officer's recommendation.
Councillor De Campo, is there a seconder? Councillor Burns, Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Burns, are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. (9.2.4) Proposed deed of variation to tripartite agreement for use and occupation of the corridor of land and rail infrastructure. Councillor De Campo,
As per officer's recommendation.
is there a seconder? Councillor Mylan, Councillor De Campo, did you want to speak to the motion?
Just quickly, this is a great result, Mr CEO, through negotiation. And for those of you in the gallery that may not know or be aware, is that we were chosen to be a super town a number of years ago. And as a part of that, we were required to contribute to a fund each year in case the railway line was ever to be re-established. We also, I think, put $750,000 up front into around that number anyway, into a reserve, which the state gave us, and then we gave them back that money. So essentially through negotiation, because the railway line clearly after the Greenbushes Talison lithium report will never be reopened, and we, through the CEO, negotiated with the state to get that money back. It's not quite in the bank yet. My personal opinion, although I haven't moved it tonight, would be that that money goes into a reserve to be spent in the main street, because technically it's still part of the Super Towns project and there is more work to be done. But a great outcome, and I think that's, whether it's spent here or elsewhere, it's money that we had initially as a part of the Super Towns concept, and it will now be spent in the community rather than being held in consolidated revenue within the state government. So congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Councillor Mylan? Are there any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.3.3, proposed budget review adjustments, 31st of March 2026. Councillor Burns?
As per the officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Batink, thank you. Councillor Burns, did you want to speak to the motion? Councillor Batink? Are there any other speakers? Can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Thank you. 9.5.3, proposed increase in the number of lodges at Carry Home Lodge, Lot 32, in brackets 55, Ellis Street, Pemberton. Councillor Mylan?
Madam President, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion. My amendment is, as per the officer's recommendation, apart from point 4 on page 57, to now read, the lodging house hereby approved, is limited to 50 persons in the premises at any one time to the satisfaction of the Shire of Manjimup, thereby replacing the 78 that were originally suggested, and also an amendment to include an additional advice note at point 3, which is the applicant is advised that if it is intended to increase the maximum occupancy period for guests to greater than 3 months in any 12-month period, then an application for an amendment to the local planning scheme number 4 or subsequent versions will be required to rezone the land to permit the longer term.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Is there a seconder?
No, but barring not getting a seconder, which I do hope that is the case, I foreshadow the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Is there a seconder to Councillor Mylan's amendment? Councillor Darren, thank you. Councillor Mylan, did you want to speak to the amendment?
Thanks very much. Firstly, I would like to speak to the first part of my amendment, which was to reduce the number of occupants down to 50 in this facility. The carry home facility has long been used by the Catholic community really in Pemberton to assist families who may need a break from the city and for that sort of accommodation, also for conferences and retreats and that sort of thing. And I'm familiar with the site, having been there myself quite a few times, although a number of years ago, and haven't seen all of the modifications that may have been made. My concern about the number of people housed in there goes to the point of the number of rooms, which are 24, and they're not all the same size. And in the applicant's original application, many of the rooms are small, and they have 3 people in them, a bunk and a single bed, in a quite a small standard-sized bedroom in the old money, 12 foot by 11 foot. There are some other larger rooms as well. However, I've based my calculation of 50 on the fact that there are 24 rooms. It does say in the original report that the applicant said there were 25. I could only count 24 on the plans. And I've worked on the basis of 2 people per room rather than 3 in many of the rooms. There are some rooms that are already designated to have 2 people. However, there is a couple of larger rooms that are, look like they've got 4 people in them. So I've counted those as 3. That's how I've come up with my calculation of 50, which is a fair enough number. I think having that many people in rooms is problematic for the fact that these aren't, even though at the moment they can only stay there for 30 days, 3 months. Then if it is extended, which is likely to be, as the case is for workers' accommodation, then they'll be there for a longer period of time. So I think that's just a bit too squishy for my liking. And I do make the point that I think that the workers who come here are so vital to our community, and I take Mr Kilrain's point on that. Absolutely, they're very welcome. I love the fact that they're going to be integrated more into our towns. I think that's terrific. I think it's also terrific that we use larger facilities where we can provide good ones, because it does take pressure off residential houses, traditional residential houses. So I think that's a reason to give the workers who come here a good standard of accommodation. And it's a lovely setting. It would be a very good spot for the workers to be. However, it's surrounded by residences, and that there is also a subdivision likely to go ahead, I assume, or in the planning stages, where there'll be more houses close by. And at the moment, it's clubs and institutions zoning. Just those residences around that area sort of have been there under those circumstances for all of that time. So I'm proposing that we approve it. I think it's a good concept to use that for our workers. I just think we need to be a little bit mindful of how many people can be fit into a certain area. I think 78, I think there's a lot of people to be living in that space, and it'll have a fairly large impact on that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Councillor Darren? Are there any speakers against? Councillor De Campo?
Thank you, Madam President. Councillor Moylan seems to like a lot of time in SAT. And if this motion is passed, I urge Mr Gillies to go to SAT. Facts don't care about feelings. That's the reality. And the fact is, there's been a technical assessment done that allows 71 people in this facility. The fact is, we've already got a policy out there that we've put to the public, we're withdrawing tonight, in relation to housing people in the community safely and well with respect. And that's what this facility does. So on one hand, we have our community saying, we don't want you to allow houses in residential areas to go to transient workers. And on the other hand, we're saying, well, you know, it's a bit squishy. The word was squishy. I think that's a reality of the situation. Not seeing the facility, but I've done a desktop to say that you can have 2 beds there and 3 beds there. And it seems like a fair enough number. It's just a fair enough number. This is a planning decision. This will end up in SAT. I won't be able to attend, but that's okay. It will end up in SAT, essentially, and this will be reversed. I urge you not to support Councillor Moylan's motion, because the reality is across the road, he can put 110 people or more in his facility, already approved by this council. We don't make judgments on a fair enough number or whether it's too squishy. This is an emotional assessment of a situation, not a technical assessment. We've got well-paid and well-qualified staff that make a technical assessment of what and who can go where. And the reality is this facility, whether it seems like the Catholics are getting belted tonight, but whether it is a Catholic or a previous Catholic facility and it housed those people, doesn't really matter what it was, in my view. In fact, the family that owned it was probably only just enough room for the amount of kids and grandkids they had, actually. But it's now transitioning to worker scheme accommodation. And as we've heard, 270 from one group. How do you think, if we cannot home people in our community, how do you think we will pick the strawberries, the kiwi fruit, the avocados, the apples, and everything else in between? How do you think we will be able to do that? In one hand, we want to restrict residential areas, and in the other hand, we don't want to give you what's technically permissible in the right spot. I urge you to vote this down and then to approve the officer's recommendation that, with the advice change, that Councillor Darren is proposing, if this is voted down.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Are there any other speakers for the amendment? Question? Any other speakers? Question?
Can the Acting Director of Development Services clarify the assessment process and decision on the officer's report on the 78 people? Am I allowed to ask that question?
Yep.
That's my question.
Acting Director of Development Services.
Through the chair, the environmental health team has attended the property twice and done inspections on the property during the renovations and when the renovations were complete. So the room sizes have been measured and those numbers have complied with the Lodging House local law.
Our Shire of Manjimup Lodging House local law. It's not a, I think I'm asking a question I already know the answer of, but it's our local law. Yes?
Correct. The Shire of Manjimup Health local law.
Did you want to take up your right?
Yes. The advice note was actually a suggestion I had made with regards to just clarifying and ensuring that the applicant was fully aware of how we can support them moving forward if they did want to have people staying in there for more than 3 months, which we would assume that's the case. So it was just a matter, I suppose, a technical matter. It was already included in the conditions that it was a maximum of 3 months over 12 months, but I wanted to ensure that the applicant was aware of how the Shire could support that process of being extended out. So it's certainly not intended to change anything, but to offer an avenue of how we can work collaboratively to do that. I do have concerns that if the planning assessor or the environmental health assessment has been done and deemed that 78 does meet our local law, that if we do end up in SAT, we are going to have a very, very hard time disputing our own local law. And if that is the case, then I'm not confident to spend the money, and it is often tens of thousands of dollars for lawyers to go through SAT for a process that if our local law does say that this is what we would allow, it's very difficult for us then to turn around and say that we're changing our own local law. So some of the things that Councillor Mylan has brought up, I agree with, I tend to agree with wholeheartedly, but in my opinion, if that is where we are going, then we should change our local law and then have applications assessed against our policies and not change it on the fly and then end up in a situation that we are likely to lose. So this is a very complicated situation. All of these are, but yes, that is where I would be standing right now, is that we should meet the requirements of our own local laws and move forward with that.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Mylan, did you want to close?
I do agree that we need to look at our local laws, and after going to the planning workshops, as I spoke about the other day at our meeting, it is essential that we get our policies right, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've deferred the decision on the policy in relation to this issue until future time we can get it right. Look, I take those comments on board, and I accept that this would likely be challenged. It may or may not be. I don't know how many people the applicant has staying in there at the moment. I've got no idea whether they're staying there for 3 months or whether he's sticking to the rules of how many people he's currently supposed to have. However, I think we need to modify our planning laws, and from that point of view I can understand we need to just base it on the planning laws as they are. But I note that this is for a 12-month period, and until we do get our policy settled. And so from that point of view, I suggest that, perhaps we do endorse it and change my viewpoint on it only on a technicality. I still think it's not good to house people in that sort of accommodation. And when we do review our policy, I'll definitely be looking at ways that we can make it so that people are living in, don't say humane conditions, and I'm not saying that they are inhumane, but I just think it's reasonable for fully grown adults to be given living conditions which are, give them a little bit of personal space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Can we put the amended motion as presented by Councillor Mylan to the vote, please, councillors? Yes, thank you. Yep.
So sorry, Councillor, it's not an amendment, it's the substantive motion.
The substantive,
Yeah.
sorry. All those in favour? And against? Carried 7-0. Lost. Sorry.
Well, that's one of the most bizarre situations
That
I've
was
ever been
bizarre.
in.
We'll go back
Madam
to the
President,
foreshadowed motion.
I'd like to
Councillor
move, as
Campbell.
per officer's recommendation, with an additional point 3 in the advice note, that the applicant be advised that if it is intended to increase the maximum occupancy period for the guest to greater than 3 months in any 12-month period, then an application for an amendment to the local planning scheme number 4 or subsequent versions will be required to rezone the land to permit the longer term. Not my addition to the advice note. I couldn't claim that. It's Councillor Darren's. The reason for the alternative is that there is a good chance for these seasonal workers to stay in the district longer than 3 months, so it should be explicitly stated to the applicant that any longer than 3 months requires a zoning amendment. The Shire need these to be above board and set a precedence of getting it done properly. It needs to be an even playing field with others, so that they would also have to go through the same planning processes and have the right zoning.
Seconder, thanks. Yeah, so you've spoken to that before it was seconded. Fantastic. Okay. Do you want to have another crack?
Well, common sense does prevail, Madam President. It's, in government today, it's something of a rarity. But I think the point 3 in the advice note is very important. I think we've seen over the last few months, and there's been a lot of feces book commentary around where people are housed in our community, particularly travelling workers. But it's very important that we get it right. So I think it's a good advice note. It is just advice, but I think it's important to also observe our local laws and our planning scheme 99.9% of the time. I'll always just put that small rider in. But I encourage you to support the motion.
Councillor Darren. Any other speakers? Although I do support the officer's recommendation, I would also like to highlight that it is very important that we do try to house these workers as comfortably as we can. We know that we are in a housing shortage, and we know that housing for everyone is really hard to find. But these are essential workers within our region. They do deserve to have their own personal space, and they do deserve to be given the respect of privacy. So I would also urge the applicant to consider that when housing these people who are incredibly important, and they are beautiful people that help us out, to make sure that they are given their privacy and their dignity as much as possible. Thank you. So with that in mind, Councillor de Cambo, did you want to close?
Yeah, I'll do it actually, thank you. And only because you opened the door, but I mean, I think everyone who wants to provide accommodation wants to provide accommodation with dignity. I mean, the reality is we've got a local establishment in the main street that's providing similar accommodation. We've got, the old Gloucester Motel providing similar accommodation. I think it's really a poor insinuation that people wouldn't want to do that. They want these people to stay. You're right, we do need seasonal workers. There is absolutely no doubt about that. I think they're being demonised, in fact, by part of the community that is saying that we just want to pack you in like a circus. And that's just not right, I don't think. So we just need to be careful about the way that we treat that as well. And the reality is, as we've found, and as how most of this started, was that if they don't like the place, they won't stay there. It's as simple as that. So it is also self-regulating. But absolutely agree. I think the people that are doing what they're doing right now are doing it with nobility, and I think they want to provide good accommodation. And in fact, as Councillor Moylan did state, it's provided good accommodation for many, many Catholics in the past, and I'm sure that they will continue. So I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, councillors. Can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? And carried 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay, 9.5.5, consideration of public submissions for draft local planning policy, 6.1.26, residential buildings policy. Councillor Darren.
I'd like to move as per the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Is there a seconder? Councillor de Campo. Councillor Darren, did you want to speak to the motion?
I do. So we have obviously read this recommendation that we for now withdraw the policy that was publicly advertised and continue forward with policy development. The reason why I pulled this out, I suppose, is probably more to address some of the concerns that have been very widely described. I'm not sure we've seen quite such Facebook engagement since, yes, possibly the irrigation scheme, which is great. That is fantastic. It is really good to see the public having conversations. I certainly received a lot of phone calls. I do really appreciate that every single person that called me about this issue wanted to have a discussion. They didn't want to just vent, which is also fine, but it is always, you get better policy when you're able to have a discussion with people and find out the meanings behind why they might have a frustration or a concern. And certainly what those discussions highlighted to me was that there was a level of vagueness within this policy that created uncertainty within the community, and that uncertainty certainly caused some stress. I would like to reassure the community, those that are watching and those sitting in the gallery, that it was never the intention of this council to have a policy to house 20 people in a house. That is not the discussion that was ever had. The initial discussion that raised should we or do we need to have a policy, and that yes, we do need to have a policy, is to ensure that there is regulation for these things, because 20 people in a home is not okay. I don't think anybody, certainly I haven't seen anybody suggesting to us that they would want to put 20 people in a house. But it certainly created the uncertainty in the community that we may want to, or we may approve those things, and that we may do so without the visibility of the community. And again, that was not the intent of the policy. The intent was to create a framework that we could assess against, And a little bit like in the last one, where we have a local law and we assess it against that, and then that makes a determination on whether or not are willing to do something outside the scope of that, because we do have the right to make decisions outside the scope of what our policies are, but it gives us a framework to work within and ensure that when we are making decisions that are outside that framework, that is a considered decision of council. That those things are brought to us, not for every single thing, but brought to us when it needs a decision of council, and that the community's expectation is taken into consideration in that instance. So I look forward to workshopping this policy further. I think the bones of it are there. I think the intent of council is there. I think we can make this policy better. I would urge anybody out there, certainly the people in this space, to advocate to this state and federal government, because the one thing I have learnt in my very confusing time about this is we are trying to create a solution for mismatched legislation that does not deal with this issue. This needs leadership from a lot higher body. It needs to deal with this because agriculture is not the only space where this is going to become an issue. We talk all the time about shortages in aged care workers, shortages in construction workers. This is going to be something that is going to continue forward. If we need to bring people in to do certain jobs, which we all desperately need them to do, we have got to find options for housing, and it is going to take a higher level of legislation to coordinate that. It is not going to be at a local level trying to bring different types of local laws, health laws, lodging houses, residential tenancy acts, and pick and choose and piece together a policy that solves a problem that really wasn't of our making. So I would encourage anybody in this industry to please advocate to your local members, please advocate to the state government and the federal government to have some leadership in this space so that we can create policies with a really good outcome, because for now we have to work with what we've got, and I would like to assure the community that we are trying to do that. So I would encourage council to support this motion that we revoke this policy for now. We go back, we do some further work on it, and we take it back out for community consultation when we have a better outcome for that.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Councillor De Campo? Any other speakers? I would just like to back up what Councillor Darren has said. I think I had 8 in-person meetings within a day on this policy, just to reassure people of what it was that we were trying to achieve with this and what we could, within our local government framework, actually approve, and how difficult it was to try and mesh everything together to come out with a very transparent and equal policy. This has been the subject of many confusing conversations, and I would definitely, we definitely need a policy on our residential, but and we will continue to work on that. But I would definitely encourage community, always reach out to your councillors on any matter, not just this one. Councillor Darren, did you want to close? We all good? Councillors, can we put this to the vote, please? All those in favour? Is carried 7-0. Okay. 956, lot 824, Mottram Street, Manjimup. Request for access arrangements for McDonald's restaurant. Councillor De Campo.
As per officer's recommendation.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Darren. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. I purely pulled this out, in fact, just to congratulate the proponent and the landowner. Many years ago, some may not remember, some may. I'm very proud of the work we did to get Woolworths where it is, other than the car park, which is still crap to this day. However, we have no control over that, so I'm very sorry if you bump your car in there. The investment that followed that, though, was significant. I mean, a town of our size, it would be very rare to have 3 barbers and a number of other hairdressers, a reject shop and a Red Dot, a Woolworths and a Coles, two car yards that sell 5 brands of cars. It's very rare to have that, and I think sometimes we just need to look in the mirror, and there would be people that are critical, and I had a bit of criticism today from somebody in the gallery, not to mention anyone, so there are people still critical of where Woolworths is, but the reality is that chain was going to pull out of our town, which would have left us dead. With McDonald's coming to town, we'll see a McFlurry, actually, of investment. And Ed Fallons was here before. I think he's gone now, but Tall Timbers was one of those investments that came out of super towns and the confidence Woolworths gave and various other things. And we will see a flurry of investment because of McDonald's coming. McDonald's don't invest lightly, so people know. They don't just pick a dot on the map and throw a dart. There's a number of significant matrices that they go through. And for those of you who are, and I've had one call, you might guess who it's from, but McDonald's has Ronald McDonald House. They support local sporting clubs. They support local kids and bring them in. And I'm not sure, you might be able to tell me this because I was told, but anyone who wants to be a franchisee actually has to work in a McDonald's for a significant amount of time. It's not just somebody that picks it from somewhere else and says, I want to put it there because no one's got one within a 100-kilometre radius. So there's a significant amount of work being done. This is the first part of it. I mean, this is not an approval for a McDonald's, but this gives them the confidence that council wants it in town and that wants to see it approved. I'm not sure that process will come through this room. I'm fairly sure it'll go through a higher body, and I would expect that should be the case. But I urge you to support the motion because an investment by McDonald's is like you've matured as a community, and that is a reality. It's not just about fast food, it's about a total community package, and that's how McDonald's works. So I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Councillor Doan, are there any other speakers? I would just like to echo the comments that Councillor De Campo has already said. The Woolworths complex, regardless of the car park, has brought significant investment into our area. It does have another bottle shop that we already had bottle shops within town. It also has four other independent retailers within that area. These are not franchises. They are just independent retailers. Without that complex, we may not have had that. So I think this is, I strongly suggest that, recommend that council does support the officer's recommendation. We have long had, why don't we have Kmart? Why don't we have Target? Can't we have something else? Well, this has been brought to us. So, you know, if we don't agree to this, do we then say, well, you know, it came to us and we said no? This could be the first of many that do come to us. So I would urge council to support the officer's recommendation. Have I opened any doors, Councillor De Campo?
You have, Madam President. Thank you so much. I love to widen the just on a road safety matter, I've got to say, a McDonald's on road safety is paramount in your community. And I'll tell you why just quickly, and I know it's probably a point of order if you like. I don't know how many times I went to Bunbury when I was a young fella to get McDonald's or Hungry Jack's. And I was just talking to somebody just today in the Smogo room. They said, well, they went and bought 100, not that I recommend you do this anymore on the camera, but they went and bought 100 cheeseburgers and threw them in people's letterboxes that evening. So it is also actually a matter of keeping people in your community. You do forget that. I mean, you forget that when Greg came to us and said, I want to build a Woolworths, I said, well, I want you to put a bottle shop. Actually, no, sorry, when you come and said, I want to put a service station, I said, well, you put a bottle shop and I'll put a service station. But no other bottle shop's closed. And you're right, Madam President, there are other independent shops there. We wouldn't have Blackbirds we have today. So it will keep people in town. It literally will. And more is always better. The studies all show more is always better. If you have one restaurant in town, it will most likely close down. If you have multiple restaurants in town, they thrive because there is choice. And this is just about more choice. So I urge you to support the motion. And thank you for opening the door.
Pleasure. Councillors, can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay. Go from one to the next one. 9.9.1, proposed contribution to access Manjimup thank you, gentlemen. Manjimup Recreation Grounds at Kiernan College. Councillor Darren.
Yes, I would like to move a amended motion that council acknowledge the correspondence received from Kiernan College as per attachment 9.9.1 in brackets 2. 2, note that the use of the Shire of Manjimup Recreation Grounds for school carnivals and inter-school sporting events will continue to be provided at no cost. 3, advise Kiernan College that an annual contribution fee for regular access and use of the Manjimup recreation grounds during school hours will be set at $2,200 per annum, starting from the 2027-28 financial year. 4, amend the 2027-28 schedule of fees and charges to include the above contribution arrangement. 5, direct the Chief Executive Officer to amend Policy 4.2.1, hire of Shire buildings, facilities, grounds and hall equipment to reflect council direction. And 6, direct the Chief Executive Officer to establish a memorandum of understanding with Kiernan College to clearly document roles, responsibilities, conditions of use and the agreed contribution framework, ensuring transparency and clarity for both parties moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Is there a seconder? Councillor.
I'd like to foreshadow an amended motion in case it does lose, and I'd also like to second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Darren.
Yeah, lots of emails, lots of phone calls, lots of text messages. Again, greatly appreciated, because this is how we make decisions. We read officers' recommendations, we do our own research, and then we listen to what the community says. I certainly received a very broad spectrum of responses. All of us got a lot of emails. I'm sure many of you got phone calls. My impartiality says I am a parent of children at Kiernan College. So I was pulled up in town. I was pulled up by colleagues. I was pulled up by people at netball. I've received text messages. And I certainly found that there was people from one end that said no fee, we shouldn't be doing that. I had quite a few people that said a fee is reasonable, but $10,000 is too much. And I even did have a few that said, no, a fee is reasonable and $10,000 is okay, which surprised me. But there were a few. My motion is, I suppose, trying to find that middle ground. It's saying that once we take all of that information into account and we look at it on balance, and that is our job, is to find the middle road that can, I would say, satisfy the most amount of people. But when it comes to politics, generally, if everybody is pretty unhappy, you've probably done an all right job. Because you'll never make everybody happy, but if you've made everybody a little bit unhappy and hopefully equally unhappy, sometimes that's about as good as you're going to get. So it was about trying to find a middle ground. There's a few things there. Obviously, the reduced fee. I have also, in that motion, moved it from being the 26-27 financial year to the 27-28 financial year, on the basis that schools work on a calendar year. I was one of the finance officers at the Manjimup Senior High School for a number of years, so I do understand managing school budgets, and we certainly would be doing the budgeting at the end of the year in preparation for the next year based on a calendar or a school year, not a financial year. So I think it is fair for us to put this into next financial year, allowing Kiernan to work through their budgeting process this year and have that applied for their next year's budget. So that won't put an impact on any issues that they have this year, and they can factor that into their budgeting processes. Look, it is a challenging thing. I do think that there is increased maintenance costs. We talk about the oval. It's not just a public open space. This is a premium oval. There is a block of land just down from that I would consider public open space. It's grassed, it's not articulated, I don't think, it's not particularly well looked after. It might be mowed a bit, but it's certainly not kept to the standard that an oval like a Manjimup Recreation Oval is. But also, as a parent, I would expect the Shire of Manjimup, if we know that there are children regularly every day of the week, whether it's for 15 or 20 minutes or 45 minutes, I would expect the Shire to be aware that those children are using that space, and that they do take more time and effort and accountability for ensuring that there are certain things in. If there is glass all over that oval, or if there is issues with needles, or if there is a piece of equipment that is particularly dangerous to children in comparison to another public space where maybe is not as utilised, I would expect the Shire of Manjimup to prioritise its resources, people resources, financial resources, to focus on the area where children are regularly using it, children from 3 and 4 years old all the way up to 18 years old, rather than something that isn't being used. So I think having a memorandum of understanding allows us to have those roles and responsibilities structured. I think that is an important thing for both the Shire and for Kiernan College. There is probably some concerns around insurances and whose responsibility if a child was to have an injury on that without a memorandum of understanding and clear roles and responsibilities. So for me, that is a non-negotiable. It was actually flagged in a motion, a resolution of council in 2016 that a memorandum of understanding be put in place and that a fee be attached to that. So a decade ago, that was agreed and it was part of an agreement between the Shire and Kiernan to close off the section of Lehman Street between Somerville and Moore Street that Kiernan was going to take over, and we were going to contribute quite significantly to redesigning the intersections there and also create new bus bays. And a part of that was a resolution that we establish a fee for this. That was never done. So that's not to say we should, it's not to say we always have, well, technically you are supposed to act on a resolution of council, but we have something now and we can look at that. There is also the fact, and we've talked about the Oval, but there is a car park there that has upwards of 100 vehicle movements 5 days a week, 40 weeks of the year. That does also require additional maintenance. We do need to take into account all of these things when making our considerations, and although we could do nothing and we could do $10,000, I feel like my role is to find the middle ground that can navigate through this in a fair and equitable way. Not everybody will agree with what fair and equitable is, but I feel like this motion is that space, and it will be for all of you to make that decision as to whether you agree with that or have an alternative.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Councillor De Campo.
Thank you, Madam President. It's going to sound like I'm speaking against this motion, by the way, but I'm actually speaking for it. You will go away tonight feeling like you've been ripped off, and that's fair enough, but it's much better than 10,000, I've got to say. My view would be nothing, would be what I would charge Kiernan. Although something had to be done, and we had many, many years ago, we had a Director of Statutory Services, I think it was then, and a subsequent CEO was Jeremy Hubble. Not sure if anyone here has met him. Quite an amazing man in our organisation. And I think it reared its head then. This isn't about maintenance, by the way. This is about booking. This is about being on the Oval where we want to maintain it. It's about getting into the rec centre when, you know, you haven't booked it. And it's a bit of a blunt stick. Granted, I'll be the one that tells you the truth. You know what it is. We know what it is. The reality is, as Councillor Darren has eloquently put in her argument, is that it doesn't kick in for a year. So if things go okay in the memorandum of understanding, which will have things in there, like if you park under the tree and a branch comes off of it, we will not pay for your car. I do agree, though, the reality is there is inconsistencies. I agree. I mean, in education alone, you have mentioned that we are giving 2,000 square metres to the Education Department tonight. Now it's a bit rich, we're going to charge somebody for using our oval. It is a public oval. However, I think $11 a day, $11 a school day is about a cup and a half of coffee if you buy it. Mine's 32 cents, by the way. I just use Nescafe, 32 cents if you want a cheaper one, but it's about a cup and a half of coffee. So I don't think that's unreasonable either. As I say, you will walk away probably feeling, you know, unjust and unheard, but I think you have. I mean, there has been an Olympian that has come from, you're right, there's been an Olympian that has come from Kiernan. Alexandra Hagan, in fact, competed in the 2012 London Olympics and in the 2016 Rio Olympics. So there have been high-end athletes that have come out of that school. They've come out of the senior high school too, by the way. And the reality is we've spent a lot of money around government schools, and Councillor Darren again is right. The offer actually was something I instigated, was to close the road. We were going to pay 50-50, as you said, for those things. That wasn't taken up by Kiernan, and that's a real shame because it was going to give you more public open space, and I don't know why at the time. And then I dropped off council, but I'm back, as you can see, with vigour, so, you know, I'm happy to pick up your bat. But, you know, we have made significant investment around other schools. In fact, in 2006, we paid $110,000 when they built a new primary school in town. We paid 135,000 at East Manjimup Primary School because they needed a car park and some traffic calming. We paid 120,000 for road narrowing and the car park in Rutherford Street to improve safety, and also in St Joseph's. I don't want to whack the Catholics anymore tonight, to be sorry, but $35,000 for a new reseal and some parking. The reality is this is to sort out the bookings. This is to get your act together through a memorandum of understanding. It's been around a long, long time. And if that is the case, we can always reverse the decision to charge. Because IMPS, you're right, already gets 70 odd thousand a year. They get 8,000, as you've said. We also spend around 65,000 maintaining that ground. So the $2,200, you know, we wouldn't be able to get the grader out of the depot to grade out around the outside of the oval for that. The other clubs get that too. There is also precedence to remove the charge if things go along swimmingly, because Walpole Primary School doesn't get charged, but it has exclusive use of our oval. So I do hope that people come to the table. You have a memorandum of understanding between the Shire of Manjimup and Keenan College, and we stick to that. That doesn't need to include IMPS. They've been sort of dragged in this as our tenant, but we don't charge any football clubs, and nor do we want to. That sport is struggling as much as it is. But for the price of a jug at the pub, as in a midi, or $11 I think they are now. They said that's what Pemby's gone up to this week, so $11 for a midi a day, or a cup and a half of coffee, of which I'm sure, and I would be going out on a limb here, that 90% of your teachers get on the way to work at the drive-through. I don't think that's unreasonable. Is it unreasonable to charge in the main? Yeah, I think it is, but I'm going to support the motion and I urge other councillors to do that so we can get the MOI done, get the relationship back to where it should be. You know, enlisting, and I had more calls as well, as everyone else did. I mean, I think the only other one I had so many calls for and they wanted to lynch me in the street was the biomass project many years ago. But I had one call for McDonald's, and I think I had numerous emails, but that's great. That means community engagement is there. I think it's a good outcome to only be, you know, getting to 20%. The reason I didn't go lower is I didn't think this council was going to go any lower. So I negotiated very quickly with Councillor Darren to go from 3,000 down to 2,200, and I think that's a reasonable outcome as well. So I urge you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor De Campo. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Burns.
Thank you very much. Now, I think this is an interesting one because, once again, we're talking about fairness, and to determine what is fair is a very subjective concept. Now, like everyone else around the table, I've had plenty of contact from people who are against this motion, parents and community members from Keenan College. What surprised me, though, was the lack of calls from parents of the other schools. Now, I am a parent of children in a local school, one of the local schools that has to pay for their own school oval maintenance and funding. And I think when you try and look at it through that lens of what is fair, these other schools who are essentially paying for the maintenance on their own school oval, what programs could they give their students that they currently don't because they're paying for a school oval? But on the other side of the coin, somebody at some point historically at Keenan has made a very shrewd decision, and instead of having to fork out every year tens of thousands of dollars in oval maintenance, they've snatched an opportunity to use a public park, essentially. It's a football oval, it's got some posts and it's nicely manicured lawn, but essentially it's a public park. I don't think at any point if a local school took their kids out of the classroom and marched them down to the timber park, anyone would complain. There'd certainly no ticket office at the front gate expecting payment to use public open space. Now, as I said, as a parent of students at a different school, I don't think it's fair that Keenan gets to use the school oval for free when every other school in the area, or most of the other schools in the area, have to pay for the funding themselves. However, I don't agree with the concept that just because they've got a better deal than I do, we need to drag them down to our level. Perhaps a bit like the residential building policy, this is something that's a bit above our level. Why is it that sports clubs use facilities provided by local government that sit empty during the day when all the kids are at school? And conversely, why do schools, state, independent, religious-based, doesn't matter, they all have to pay for a sports oval that gets used during the day by those very same kids that sits vacant late in the evening? The argument here is, why is there so many football ovals, or ovals in general, in our community that are only used half the time? Why isn't anyone kicking up a stink at the state government level, because they're the ones that control the education department, to have a little bit more common sense thinking? Why aren't we co-locating our sports clubs and our schools and utilizing that facility throughout the day, saving a cost across the board? Now, that is something that is just way beyond our pay level, and it's certainly not something that we can control. But just because at some point somebody's made this, in hindsight, ridiculous idea that we need twice as many ovals as we actually do, I don't think that's reason to punish those who, whether it was shrewd business management or a stroke of luck or whatever other reason, to punish a school and make them pay just because other people have to. Now, for the record, a lot of the arguments that have been given as to why we shouldn't charge Keenan College, I don't necessarily agree with. Nobody's saying the kids aren't allowed to use the oval. Nobody's saying we want you off the oval. We're just saying we need to make the payment system fair. But if the payment system is ridiculous in the first place, because it's an incredible waste of resources across the board, not just here in the Shire of Manjimup, but across the board, why punish someone who's, as I said before, whether it was shrewd management or just a stroke of luck, has a nice, smart, common sense scenario? Now, as for an MOU in terms of bookings and whatnot, to make sure that we don't interrupt a school sports carnival with our lawnmower or our fertilizing truck or whatever the case is, that makes sense. But at the end of the day, the Imperials Oval, or Keenan College Sports Oval, whatever one you want to call it, it doesn't have a lock on the front gate. If I had a whole bunch of kids and I wanted to march them down there at any time, I could. Why is it that just because I'm a teacher, it comes with an expense? So I actually urge you to vote against this motion, and perhaps we relook at this with an MOU for two organizations to collaborate and speak to each other a little bit more openly about when they plan to use it and when they plan to maintain it. But I am completely against any form of charge. And that's coming from someone who, as I said, isn't as fortunate, well, is at a school who is not as fortunate, that's a bit of a tongue twister, at a school that is not in as fortunate a position as Keenan College. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Any other speakers? Councillor Mylan?
I just want to clarify, what was the charge that you said? I didn't quite hear. Was it 2,200 or? Yeah, 2,200. Look, I'll speak in favour of the motion. I think that seeing the kids from Keenan College using that oval, as my 4 children did when they attended that school for a substantial part of their education, is a wonderful thing. I agree entirely with Councillor Burns. I don't want to see duplication of ovals, even woodwork rooms for that matter, that lie idle all through the school holidays and at night time when people could be using them. That's another matter. But the whole duplication of stuff, and everyone has to have their own thing, and coming from an education background, I understand how people get very thingy about it. However, I think the reality is that since the days of the Sisters of St Joseph that set up the convent and the parishioners that really did the groundwork to build that whole establishment, and I was on the parish council when we built the parish centre, and that's now substantially used by the school and was funded largely by parishioners of Manjimup. And so I understand that whole complex has been built by great volunteers and the parents and the parishioners of Manjimup. However, things have changed a lot since those times. Private schools, Catholic schools, are funded completely differently than what they were in the early days, and they're funded by the Commonwealth Government, not by the state, as the principal has said. And the Commonwealth Government funds these private schools, Catholic schools in particular in Western Australia, through the Catholic Education Office, who then allocate the funds based on a needs basis, as has been explained. They expect, in return for that, they're able to teach Catholic doctrine, Catholic education and so on, but also, as well as having a Catholic sort of ethos about what they're doing, they are required to teach the curriculum. And the curriculum includes science, English, maths, and it includes health and sport. And in order to teach art, you need an art room. In order to teach sport, health and physical education, teachers need to plan lessons, they need to give instructions to students, they need to assess those students, they need to report that to the parents. This is actually part of the core curriculum of a school, is to teach health and physical education. And if the Commonwealth Government is not prepared to give enough funding to a school to provide the resources that it needs to deliver that program, then that's an argument that we should be having, and I'll support the Kiernan College in this one, to make sure that you do get the funding. Now, it might not be funding to build an oval, but it might be funding to rent an oval for when you need it. So my issue with, I think that Kiernan College should pay something to the Shire, not because, I know the oval's there anyway, but the swimming pool's there anyway. We still charge people to go into it. Okay, so it's about contributing to the costs that should be borne by the Commonwealth, really, and that goes down to the school. And so the only way we have of sort of collecting some revenue to contribute, which is really a small portion of that facility. So I'll support the motion that we charge Kiernan College $2,200 a year. I think it's quite low, really, because the school, and I want to see the school use the oval for playtime, for lunchtime, for running around laps before school starts in the morning, fun runs, but it's also used for the part of the integral part of the actual teaching program. And because it's used for that, I think it's fair enough to charge the school for it. There's a bit of a leeway for them to budget to get that the funds together for the next year. I think it's quite a generous offer, really, in terms of what you're offering someone from, who's an educational institution that does receive millions of dollars every year. Football clubs don't receive government money every year. So the school does receive millions of dollars every year via the Commonwealth Government to provide an education. And I'm not decrying that they shouldn't get that, they need that. But I really think it's reasonable that in the whole sort of chain of who's responsible for education in this country, that, the Commonwealth Government doesn't try and cost shift down to providing facilities for schools to local governments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mylan. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bating.
Well, I would like to speak in favour of Councillor Darren's motion as well. I think it was never anyone's intention to stop the children from using the oval. It was just to sort out the arrangement between the Shire and the school. And it is a premium sporting oval. It costs a lot to maintain, and I think it's only fair that there's a fee charged for that. And I think this is a reasonable compromise for the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any other speakers? Good. I would urge the councillors to support Councillor Darren's recommendation. As most of the teachers in this room know, I have had 3 children that have also gone through Kiernan College. 2 of them used the oval a lot more than one of them. One of them spent a lot of time in the office. But I do believe that there needs to be some sort of compromise here. $10,000 was a little bit over the top. We also never, the The intention was never to stop kids on the ovals. We know that this is a huge part of mental health for kids. It's a gathering place. It's a sorting out the hierarchy place. It's an essential part of school is sport. Just to address one of the points in the deputation about this isn't something that this council alone wanted to address. This has been going on for 10 years. This council is in the middle of a budget process. We don't want to put rates up. And we are very much trying to find where we can cut any sort of rating at any sort of fees at anywhere at the moment. We've just been through community grants that we are trying to sort out where we can cut things from, what services are probably going to be cut, where we are going to not mow verges as often as they were, because we know that people are in financial hardship. We know this. But the cost, the increasing costs that people are finding, the council is finding as well, the Shire is finding as well. We don't want to put rates up any more than we have to maintain the level, just maintain the level of service that people are already expecting. Costs have gone up. Services and the expectation of community from the Shire has gone up. We are all very, very aware of this, and it is a huge part of what we do sitting around these tables all the time, is that we are very aware of how much people are finding just the cost of living so very difficult. I do believe that there does need to be some sort of a contribution. I'm very happy with the 2,200, which by Dr. Gallen's own admission would be approximately what Kiernan would be paying with the use already. So if your use was to increase, consider it free from $2,200. I would definitely urge council to support Councillor Darren's proposal. Councillor Darren, did you want to close?
Yes, I think it's clear how this is going to go, but no, I would encourage you to support the motion. I'm going to be a bit cheeky. We are not the only example of this. Through my research, I could find at least 3 examples in Western Australia where this sort of licence agreement is in place. One is actually just down the road from you in the Shire of Denmark, where the Denmark Senior High School and the Shire of Denmark share an oval space where they contribute 50% each to the maintenance cost. There is a school in the city that does too. And strangely enough, a tiny little shire, I had to Google this, the Shire of Training, which is about 250 kilometres northeast of Perth, a little bit north of Kellerberrin, and for some of those that will find this funny, a little bit west of Muckenbudden.
Oh, Mucka.
They have a tiny little primary school with 10 students. Their budget is less than $1 million a year. And they have an agreement with their local government, and that agreement is a $10,000 a year licence agreement to utilise the school ovals. So I am not suggesting that is what we should do. I am saying that we are not the first to do this. This is something that has been done in the state already, and that we are following a similar pathway to ensuring that there is clear roles and responsibilities, a fee exchange for that, for shared use of public space, is something that is a lot more common than maybe we have been saying before. So I would encourage you to support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Can we please put the substantive motion to the vote, please? All those in favour? And against? Carried 6-1. Thank you. Where are we? 80. Okay, 913.2, proposed revocation of management order for reserve 4510 lot 12817 Balbarrup Road, Dingup. I would like to move that this item be deferred. I do feel that there is more information and the consequences of this item that council needs to consider. So I would like to propose that we defer this item to the next meeting. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Burns. Look, I've given my reason for it. Councillor Burns, can we put that to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour, 7-0. Thank you. Same for the next one. 9.13.3, proposed closure of amalgamation of unconstructed road, isolated parcel in the vicinity of Perrott Road, Balbarrup. I would also move that this one be deferred for the same reasons as the last one. Seconder, Councillor De Campo, thank you. All those in favour?
Speak.
Oh, go, sorry.
Thank you. I tried to second the first one to want to speak. Did you notice my tie tonight, Madam President?
I did, it's great.
Very good.
Continue.
Look, I would like to see it deferred too for more information. I'm very concerned that government departments are wanting to give away water resources and reserves in relation to these couple of things. So a deferment for more information is a very wise move in this matter, I think, because this is maybe the first of many. And so we must be very open and transparent about the reasons and why. So I urge you to support the motion to defer.
Are there any speakers against? Any other speakers? Can we put it to the vote, please, councillors? All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Oh, I'm out. Don't forget to come and get me.
Thank you. We move on to item 9.13.4, proposed closure of unconstructed road reserve portion of Kimber Road, Palgarrup. Results of public consultation.
As per officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Burns. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor De Campo?
No, other than the recommendation speaks for itself. I think it's very important that we allow the continuation of the Rifle Club to operate, and this allows that. I think there was a trail that needs to be moved, and I'm sure that's why horses have got 4 legs. They can easily make a change to their trail. Sorry, Kate, if you're watching. It's like Big Brother's watching you, isn't it? But yeah, I think it's a great recommendation. I think it's very good to see this club, through the ridiculous changes to some of the laws to the State's Firearms Act. One of them was increasing the buffer zone to, I think, 3 kilometres. I know I wouldn't be able to get anyone at 3 kilometres, that's for sure, but maybe there are people that do. And this allows that to continue, so I urge you to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Burns? Any other speakers for or against? Okay, I put it to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Thank you. And would someone like to invite the President back into the room?
Thank you. I've re-entered the building. Okay. Late reports. Late reports.
Can I move that we go behind closed doors to?
No,
No?
you can't. Can we? Thank you, Councillor Darren.
I move that council resolves to move item L1 to be considered under section 14 of the agenda, meeting closed to the public.
Thank you, Councillor Darren. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Batink. All those in favour? Carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay, cool. God. Questions from members. Response to questions from members taken on notice. There are nil. Questions from members? Oh. Motions for consideration at the following meeting. Next meeting. New business of an urgent nature introduced by decision of the meeting. Nil. Thank you all very much. We do have 2 confidential items to consider. So I will need to ask you to vacate the room. You are welcome to stand out there if you like until we're finished. But thank you all very much for coming. If you do choose not to come back through the door. Thank you very much. No. Why? No. Yeah, no, not for confidential. Can we move to go behind closed doors?
I move that we go behind closed doors.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Batink. Can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour, 7-0. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so public readings of resolutions to be made public. That, what's that? Oh, it's fine. That agenda item 14.1.1, that council approve the transfer of the lease for the cafe in Manjimup, and we wish the new leasee all the very best. And that late item, confidential late item, that the Shire of Manjimup is prepared to sign the application form as the landowner for Rose Street, Manjimup. Is that all I have to say?
You can read it all out.
Yeah, I reckon. Do we need to?
Probably would be better.
All of this?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. That council consider the request by Lateral Planning on behalf of the Manjimup Investments Pty Ltd to endorse the application for retrospective approval for the development of 2 shipping containers at lot 156 in brackets 80 Rose Street, Manjimup, and request that the Chief Executive Officer advise the applicant as follows: that 1, the Shire of Manjimup is prepared to sign the application form as the landowner of lot 156 in brackets 80 Rose Street, Manjimup. However, 1.1, the local government's execution of the development application form as a landowner is provided solely for the purpose of enabling the application to be lodged and considered through the statutory planning assessment process. 1.2, by signing the application form, the local government does not express support for, endorse or warrant approval of the proposed development. The provision of owner consent should not be interpreted as creating any expectation, representation, commitment or obligation on the part of the local government to approve the application. 1.3, the leasee should acknowledge that the application will be assessed on its planning merits in accordance with the relevant legislative framework, local planning scheme policies and any other applicable considerations. The local government retains full discretion in its role as decision maker. 1.4, the leasee should further agree that the local government's consent to lodge the application does not give rise to any liability, claim or entitlement against the local government should the application be refused, approved, subject to conditions or otherwise determined in a matter not sought by the leasee. Carried 7-0. Great. Applications for leave of absence. So it wouldn't surprise me if everybody went. Councillor Burns.
This is a formal statement. I'd like to request a leave of absence for the next meeting in June. Do I give a reason?
Go on then.
I will likely be in a hospital at the time supporting my wife.
Excellent. Can we put that to the vote? Oh, do we need a seconder? Yes. Can someone want to second it? Mover. Oh, Councillor Burns, do you want to? And seconder? Councillor Batink. Councillor Wilcox. Councillor Batink. Moved. Councillor Wilcox. Seconded. Can we put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? 7-0, and we wish you all the very best of luck, Councillor Burns, you and your lovely wife. Congratulations and best of luck. With that in mind, I wish to close the meeting and thank everyone that's here. Close the meeting at 7:51. Thank you very much.